I still see him, standing in the middle of that field, like he didn't know where the hell he was. He hadn't eaten in days, could barely speak. But what haunts me, what really never left, is that I wasn't alone when I found him. There was someone else, watching. And I never said a damn word. My name's Scott Bennett. I'm 62 now, retired. Been out of the force for what, 11 years? Yeah, 11. I was with the Warren County Sheriff's Department most of my life. Born and raised right here in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Never really felt the need to leave. Still don't. My daddy ran a body shop off Nashville Road, and my mom worked second shift at the hospital. Honest people. Quiet lives. I grew up watching the sun come up over the fields and set behind the trees. That kind of place. I joined the department in '83. I was 20. Didn't know much, but I had a clean record, a good heart, and I was strong enough to chase someone if I had to. That's all they wanted back then. Small town. We didn't have SWAT or fancy equipment. Hell, we still used Polaroids for evidence half the time. But I liked the work, liked being useful. Made you feel like your boots actually meant something. I wasn't a hero, not like the movies make it out to be. Most days it was just noise complaints, parking issues, neighbor stuff, lost dogs, domestic squabbles. You knew folks by name, and they knew yours. That's the thing about being a cop in a small place. You don't get to just clock out. People see you in the grocery store, at the gas station. You're not Officer Bennett. You're just Scott. And they remember what you did, and what you didn't do. I married young. Donna was my high school sweetheart. She worked over at Western Kentucky University in administration. We had 2 boys. They're grown now. One's in Louisville, the other's down in Tennessee. I got 3 grandkids and I try to see them when I can. But after retirement, things slowed down. A little too much, maybe. You find yourself replaying stuff, not the good memories. It's the ones you tried to forget that come back around. I don't talk about the job much, not even with the boys. They just think I was some local cop who never got in too deep. And maybe that's mostly true, but not always. There were a few calls, a few faces, that stick to you. 2003 was a hard year. Donna had just gone through surgery and money was tight. I was working long shifts, nights mostly, covering for younger deputies who had newborns and such. I didn't mind. Gave me something to do, something to focus on. It was late summer, maybe August, when the call came in. I remember because the fields were dry and the cicadas were loud as hell. I was driving down Scottsville Road, windows half open trying to catch a breeze, when dispatch came through. Said someone spotted an elderly man walking near a property line off Trammell Creek Road. Looked confused, hadn't responded when they tried to speak with him. Said he was real thin, wearing mismatched clothes, and didn't look like he belonged out there. Now, that part of the county, it's quiet. Farmland mostly. A few barns, long fences, lots of nothing. The kind of place where time moves slower. I figured it was someone's granddad who wandered off, maybe had a bit of dementia. Happens more than you'd think. We get those calls now and then, family frantic, nursing home trying to avoid liability, all that. I was the closest unit, so I turned around and headed that way. Didn't think much of it at the time, just another welfare check. Just another old man lost in the weeds. I had no idea that day would stay with me for the rest of my life. And I sure as hell didn't know I'd be carrying a secret this long. Not from the department, not from the state, from myself. You see, people think being a cop is about solving crimes, chasing bad guys, busting down doors. But most of it, it's just moments, quick decisions, a look, a hunch, a choice to go left instead of right. And sometimes, not saying something. That's what gets you. That silence. And this, what I'm about to tell you, this was one of those times. One of those damn silences. You ever carry something for so long it just becomes part of your bones? Like you almost forget it's there until something wakes it back up? That's what happened earlier this year. Out of nowhere, after 22 years. Something shook loose. A letter? Just a couple sentences. No name, no return address. But it was enough. Enough to remind me of that old man standing in the tall grass. And enough to remind me that I wasn't alone that day. Most folks don't really understand what it's like to wear a badge in a place like Bowling Green, especially back then. They think every cop's dealing with gangs, drugs, shootouts. That's not how it was for me. That's not how it was for most of us out here. It was slower, but not easier. There's something different about being a cop when the people you serve are the same ones you see at church, at the diner, at Little League. You're not faceless. They know where you live. They know your wife. Your kids. You can't hide behind the uniform. There's a weight in that. A kind of responsibility that sticks to your skin. Back in the early 2000s, we didn't have half the tech the city departments did. No body cams. No fancy databases. Hell, our station computers still had dial-up. You wanted to find someone, you knocked on doors. You asked around. You paid attention. You listened. I usually worked nights, volunteered for them. I liked the quiet. Less traffic, less politics. Just me, the cruiser, and whatever came across the radio. I'd ride the back roads mostly, checking on closed gas stations, doing slow drive-bys near the trailer parks, keeping an eye on barns with no lights that maybe should have had some. It was peaceful most of the time. I liked that. There's a certain calm in the routine. Getting coffee from the same gas station around midnight, hearing the same guy on the CB talking about his rig outside Nashville, waving to the same farmer fixing his gate at 5 a.m. But there's a flip side to all that peace. It makes the bad stuff stand out more, hits harder, because you know the people it's happening to. You've seen their kids at the school play. You helped them fix a flat tire last week. So when something does go wrong, it doesn't feel like a job. It feels personal. I remember one night in '01, I had to respond to a domestic out near Richardsville. Husband drunk, waving a shotgun, wife and daughter locked in the bathroom. We got there in time, talked him down, no shots fired. But I knew that man, knew his daddy. We'd gone to the same high school. That night, that shook me. I went home and couldn't sleep for 2 days. Donna kept asking what was wrong. I just said, it's part of the job. But truth is, it never was just a job. I guess what I'm saying is, when that call came in about the old man in the field, it didn't feel like just a routine pickup. I mean, it should have been. We got missing persons sometimes, usually cleared up in a few hours. But something about it, I don't know. The way dispatch said he looked confused, not moving much, possibly injured. That hit different. We'd had heat advisories all week. The kind of Kentucky heat that makes the asphalt sticky and the trees quiet. You get an old man walking in that for too long, and it don't end well. There's a weight that comes with those calls. Not adrenaline, not fear, more like dread. Like your gut's telling you, pay attention. This might be one that sticks. And I'd learned to trust that feeling. We had a skeleton crew that night. One guy was off with his wife about to give birth. Another called in sick. So I was it for that part of the county. Just me and the silence. I pulled off the highway, tires crunching on gravel, turned down a narrow road I'd only driven once or twice. Cornfields on both sides. No houses in sight, just fences and open sky. And in those moments, when the radio goes quiet and there's no headlights behind you, you start thinking about things. Past calls, missed chances, people you helped, and the ones you couldn't. I used to keep a little notepad in my vest pocket. I'd write stuff down sometimes, not official reports, just thoughts, things that bothered me. Questions I couldn't shake. There's one entry from around that week. I still have the pad somewhere in the attic. It just says, somebody's watching. Don't know who. Don't know why. I didn't remember writing that until years later. But when I read it again, my hands went cold, like my body knew something my brain had pushed away. Thing is, the job doesn't give you time to sort through feelings. You show up, you handle the situation, you fill out the paperwork, you move on. But that night, driving toward that field, something felt off. It wasn't the usual kind of lost person call. No family had phoned in yet. No facility had reported someone missing. It was just a neighbor, out watering her plants, who saw a man stumbling past her fence and called it in. No ID, no backstory. Just a ghost in a flannel shirt, drifting through farmland. I remember checking my mirrors more than usual, slowing down at every bend. My hand stayed close to the dashlight switch, in case I needed to cut the beams fast. That's not how I usually drove. But something told me, don't be obvious. Looking back now, I think my body knew before I did. Knew that what I was driving into wasn't just another quiet Kentucky call. It was a Wednesday, August 13th, 2003. I remember the date because it was Donna's follow-up appointment from her gallbladder surgery. I had the morning off to drive her, but I picked up a night shift to make up for it. That was our deal. Me working the odd hours so we could still pay the hospital bills without dipping into savings. Back then, you didn't complain. You just adjusted. I clocked in at 4 p.m. It was hot as hell. One of those days where you sit in the cruiser and your back sticks to the seat. The air conditioner barely worked. The sky was that dusty yellow, like it couldn't decide whether to storm or just roast you. I remember stopping at the old Shell station off Cemetery Road. Got a lukewarm Gatorade and a chicken biscuit that looked better than it tasted. Then I just sat, watching traffic crawl by. Around 6:30, I was heading down Small House Road, doing a loop toward the southern end of the county. No music, just the radio on low. That's when the call came in. It was short, real short. Unit 12, welfare check. Caller reports elderly male walking along Trammell Creek Road. Disoriented, possible dehydration. Subject appears confused. No further info. Advise when on scene. I remember staring at the radio for a second, like it had more to say. But that was it. No name, no photo, no description beyond elderly male. No urgency in the dispatcher's voice either. Just standard. But something in me sat up straight. I tapped the mic. Copy that. 12 en route. My voice sounded steady, but my hand was already sweating. I turned off onto Trammell Creek and started scanning. It's a narrow road. You've got woods to your left, and on the right, it's mostly fields and rundown fences. No sidewalks, no lights. The kind of road where if someone's out walking, they damn sure don't belong. I slowed down after a few minutes, rolled the window down, tried to listen. Nothing but wind and bugs. I passed a rusted-out barn, then a mailbox half leaning over with Clemens painted in faded white letters. Still no sign of anyone. I started thinking maybe the guy wandered off, or maybe the call was a mistake. Then, about a quarter-mile ahead, I saw something. At first, I thought it was a scarecrow, just a shape, standing crooked near the fence line. But as I got closer, I could see it was a man, thin, too thin, wearing a flannel shirt that looked 2 sizes too big. His pants were dirty. One shoe was missing. He wasn't moving, just standing there, facing the field like he was waiting for something. I pulled over slowly, maybe 20 yards from him. Didn't want to spook him. Put the cruiser in park, left the engine running. Grabbed my flashlight, not because it was dark, but because I needed something in my hand. I stepped out, and the heat hit me like a wall. Took a breath, walked a few steps toward him. "Sir, you okay?" He didn't move, didn't even flinch, just kept looking straight ahead. I tried again, a little louder. "Sir, can you hear me? Are you hurt?" That's when he turned. His face, I'll never forget it. Sunken cheeks, eyes glassy, like he'd been crying, mouth half open, like he wanted to speak but couldn't. He looked lost. Not just lost like someone who took a wrong turn. Lost like someone who didn't know what year it was. Like he hadn't heard his own name in a long time. I stepped closer, slow, kept my voice calm. "My name's Scott. I'm with the sheriff's department. You're not in trouble. I just want to help, all right?" He blinked. Twice. Then whispered, "No more." That's all he said. "No more." I asked his name. Nothing. I asked if he was hurt. Nothing. I offered water. I had a bottle in the cruiser. He didn't respond, just started to sit down right there in the dirt. I jogged back, grabbed the water, came back to him. He took it, drank maybe 2 sips, and then just stared at the bottle like he didn't know what it was. I radioed in. "Dispatch, this is 12. I've located the subject. Elderly male, appears dehydrated and disoriented, requesting EMS to my location." "Copy that, Unit 12. Ambulance en route." I stayed with him, tried to get a name again. Eventually he whispered something, sounded like Wendell or Winchell. I wasn't sure. I wrote it down phonetically just in case. Then, out of nowhere, he grabbed my wrist. His hand was cold, thin like bird bones. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Don't send me back there, please. Please, son." I swallowed hard. I didn't know what to say. I told him I wasn't sending him anywhere yet. Just wanted him checked out by the medics. He kept shaking his head, muttering, "They lock the door. They forget me." And just like that, the picture changed. This wasn't just a man who got lost. This was someone running from something. I looked around the road again, back toward the fields, and that's when I saw him. Far off, near the tree line, a silhouette, watching. He was too far for me to make out much, but I saw the outline of a man, stocky, standing still. No movement, no gesture to approach, just watching. I blinked, looked again, gone. I told myself it was nothing, maybe a tree, maybe a trick of the light. But deep down, I knew. Something wasn't right. I didn't report it. Not then. And I've regretted that choice every damn day since. He was so light. I remember that the most. When I helped him up, when I slipped my arm under his shoulders to ease him toward the cruiser, I could feel every bone. His whole frame shook like a leaf. His shirt clung to him with sweat and dirt and something else. Maybe shame, maybe fear. It's hard to say, but I remember thinking, he ain't made to last much longer like this. I didn't put him in the back seat. Didn't feel right. I let him sit up front, passenger side, legs trembling, fingers curled up like he'd forgotten how to unclench them. He didn't talk much after that first whisper, just stared through the windshield like he was seeing something far off, something I couldn't. I tried to ask him again for his name, tried to get him to tell me where he came from, if he was in pain, if he needed anything. But he just kept muttering low things under his breath, words I couldn't catch. Every so often he'd whisper, "They forgot me. They forget me every day." It started to sink in then. This wasn't just a lost man. This wasn't someone who slipped out the back door for a walk and forgot his way. No, he was escaping something. The medics showed up maybe 15 minutes later, felt like an hour, county rig. 2 guys I knew, Jimmy and Ray, solid men. Been doing that job longer than me. They didn't say much when they pulled up. Just took one look at the old man, the way he was sitting, the way his skin looked like wax, and they knew. Ray went for the gurney, but I stopped him. "He's scared," I said. "Let's not rush him." So we stood there, 3 men in uniform, trying to gently coax an old man out of a patrol car, like we were talking a kid off a ledge. I told him he was safe, that we just wanted to get him cooled down, get some fluids in him. He looked at me with these eyes. I still can't describe them. Like he wanted to believe me, but didn't know how. He finally nodded, real slow. Let us help him out. We walked him to the gurney together, He winced when he sat down, like even soft things hurt. Jimmy strapped him in gentle as he could, and I saw how bad it really was. His wrists were bruised, faded yellow and brown, not fresh, but not old either. His ankles too, not from the walk, from something else. Jimmy saw it too, gave me a look but didn't say anything. We were trained to notice things without speaking. That silence between us said more than words ever could. As they wheeled him toward the ambulance, he reached out suddenly. Grabbed my sleeve. You're not one of them. I shook my head. No, sir. I'm here to help. That's all. He looked at me long, then nodded again and let go. The doors closed. The rig pulled off slow down the gravel road, and I just stood there a while. Dust floating in the air, the cicadas screaming in the trees. I remember reaching up to wipe sweat off my forehead and realizing I was shaking a little. My gut wouldn't settle. I walked back to the spot where I'd found him. Scanned the tree line. That shape I saw earlier, gone. Nothing but heat haze and trees swaying in the wind. Still, I took a few steps in that direction. Don't ask me why. Maybe part of me hoped to find footprints. Maybe I wanted to convince myself it was just my nerves. But there was nothing. No prints, no cigarette butts, no beer cans, no reason anyone should have been there, unless they didn't want to be found. I called dispatch. Told them the subject had been transported and I'd be filing a report. I didn't mention the figure I saw in the distance, didn't mention the bruises, didn't even mention what he said about being forgotten. At the time, I told myself it was because I didn't have anything solid, nothing provable, and maybe that's partly true. But deep down, it was fear, not fear for myself, fear of what it would mean if I was right. If that man had been running from abuse, and I didn't follow up, then what? I drove back to the station around 9 p.m., filed the report. Real basic. Elderly male found disoriented. No ID. Transported for medical. Awaiting follow-up. I kept it clean. Simple. No speculation. My supervisor, Lieutenant Gaines, glanced at it, nodded and said, "Good find. Glad you were out that way." I didn't say much, just went home. Donna was already asleep on the couch, TV flickering. I sat on the porch for a long time, smoked a cigarette I shouldn't have. Thought about that man's face. Thought about the words, "Don't send me back." I didn't know then what home he was talking about. Didn't know the name of the place, or who ran it, or why the bruises were there. But I knew one thing for sure. He'd rather collapse in a field, hungry and alone, than spend one more night wherever he came from. That should have been enough to make me dig deeper. But I didn't. And that silence, that moment where I chose not to push, has stayed with me ever since. It wasn't until a few days later that I found out where he came from. I was in the squad room filling out paperwork for something else when Marcy, our dispatcher, came in holding a folder. "Hey, Scott," she said, laying it on my desk. "That old man you picked up near Trammell Creek, we got a match. Nursing home over on Cave Mill, place called Green Hollow." I remember that name like it was carved into my ribs. Green Hollow. I'd passed it a dozen times. Small place. Looked more like an old motel than a medical facility. Brick walls, sagging awning, half-dead hedges out front. Nothing fancy. But I never gave it much thought. Never had to respond there for anything. Until now. I opened the folder. His name was Wendell Rayner, 72 years old. Been living at Green Hollow for just over a year. No listed family except for a daughter in Ohio, who hadn't visited in months. The file said he had mild cognitive decline. Nothing severe, no dementia, no psychosis, just some forgetfulness, some sadness. I stared at that photo for a long time. His intake photo. Full face, healthy looking, stronger than the man I found. That photo looked like someone who still had a bit of fight left in him. The man I pulled from that field. He looked like he'd been forgotten by the whole damn world. That night I couldn't sleep. Donna could tell. She asked if it was about work. I just nodded. She didn't press. She never did. The next morning I drove to Green Hollow. Off duty, no badge, just jeans and a shirt. I told the front desk I was checking on a welfare report I'd filed and wanted to confirm some details with Mr. Rayner. The woman at the desk, young, maybe mid-20s, looked surprised but nodded. Yeah. He's here, but he's not talking much. Just kind of sits there, real quiet. I walked the hallway. The smell hit me first. Cleaner, old food, plastic. That nursing home smell, like time gets trapped in the walls. Room 114. I knocked. No answer. Opened the door, slow. He was sitting by the window. Same flannel shirt. Washed now. Too big for him still. His eyes flicked toward me, but he didn't say anything. Just watched. "Mr. Rayner," I said. "It's Scott, the one who found you." He nodded. Barely. I sat in the chair across from him. For a minute, we didn't speak. Just the sound of a lawnmower outside. Distant TV down the hall. Then he said soft, "I knew someone would come." "What do you mean?" He looked down at his hands, thin, shaking. He rubbed his thumb along a scar I hadn't noticed before, just below his knuckle. "They don't hit hard," he said. Just enough to remind you." I swallowed hard. "Who hits you, Wendell?" He didn't answer, not directly, just kept going. "Sometimes it's the night staff, sometimes the day. Not the same one each time. Makes it harder to remember who, but I know the smell. The breath, the way they lean close." He paused. "They don't like when you ask for things. Water, socks, a blanket. They say you're spoiled. They say you should be grateful you're not dead already." I didn't know what to say. I'd heard stories. Everyone had. But you always think, it's just one bad nurse somewhere. One rotten apple. Not a whole place. Not this close to home. "Why didn't you tell someone?" I asked. He looked out the window again. "I did. Once. They said I was confused. Said I was creating drama. Next day, they took my shoes." I felt my chest tighten. Thought about how he was missing a shoe when I found him. He turned to me then, eyes sharp for the first time. "You believe me?" I nodded. "Yeah, Wendell, I do." He exhaled, like something let go inside him. "I ran because I thought if I made it to the road, someone would see. Someone would listen. I didn't think I'd make it, but I had to try." That broke me, not in a dramatic way. I didn't cry, didn't make a scene, but something cracked in my gut. Because I realized, if I hadn't been driving that road at that exact time, he'd have died out there, alone, in the dirt, and nobody would have asked why. That moment, it changed how I saw everything. It wasn't just about bruises or missing socks. It was about dignity, about someone who still had a voice, and everyone around him just stopped hearing it. When I left Green Hollow, I sat in my truck for almost an hour. Just sat. Thought about calling in a full investigation. Thought about putting in a complaint. But I didn't. Not right away. Part of me was scared. Scared they'd cover it up. Scared they'd say I was overreacting. Scared they'd say I imagined that shape in the woods. The man I saw. Because here's the truth I hate admitting. I didn't just fail to report what Wendell told me. I failed because I'd already decided to keep something else to myself. That man I saw near the trees. The one watching. I never looked for him. Never followed up. Never told my supervisor. And once you hold back one piece, it gets easier to hold back the next. So I did what people do when they don't know what to do. I waited. And Wendell went quiet again. A few weeks later, I checked back. They said he was transferred to a facility in Owensboro. They wouldn't give me a forwarding address. said it was out of their hands, and just like that, he was gone, like smoke, like he never existed. But I never forgot what he said in that room. They don't hit hard, just enough to remind you. I've kept this part quiet for a long time. Too long. I told myself it didn't matter, that maybe I was tired or seeing things, that it wasn't my place to stir things up without proof, that it'd just make things worse. I had 1,000 reasons, but the truth is, I was scared, not of what I saw, scared of what it meant. The night I found Wendell, after the medics took him, I stayed behind longer than I should have. Told dispatch I was checking the area, but really, I was trying to shake the feeling crawling up the back of my neck, that prickling sensation. Like you're being watched. Every cop knows that feeling. Most times it's nothing. A raccoon, a car backfiring in the distance. But that night, it was different. When I looked toward the tree line, I know what I saw. A man. Standing still. Not walking. Not hiding. Just standing. I only saw him for a second. A dark silhouette against the green. Too far to make out a face, but the shape was there. Broad shoulders. Still posture. Watching. At first I thought maybe it was another person from the nursing home. Maybe Wendell wasn't the only one who ran. Maybe someone came looking. But the more I thought about it, the more that didn't add up. The way he stood. It wasn't searching. It wasn't confused. It was controlled. Like someone waiting. Like someone making sure something didn't go too far. I took a few steps in that direction. Shined my flashlight. Called out. Nothing. No answer. No rustling. Just the bugs in the wind and the echo of my own voice. Still, I knew he was there. I stayed there a while, scanning the trees, looking for movement, listening. I even walked into the field, maybe 50 yards, brushing weeds aside, trying not to let the fear show on my face. I didn't find a damn thing, but the feeling didn't leave. It followed me all the way back to the cruiser, and when I sat behind the wheel, hands on the steering wheel, I had this thought, clear as day. Don't report it, because if I did, I'd have to explain why I didn't chase him, why I didn't call for backup, why I froze. And the truth was, I didn't want to know who he was. I didn't want to know what he was doing there, because if I did, then everything Wendell said wouldn't just be sad. It'd be criminal. And I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready to turn over a rock and find something dark writhing underneath. So I left it out of the report, didn't mention the figure, didn't mention the feeling, didn't even tell Donna. I buried it. Like we all do when something doesn't fit nice and clean into a report. But it never stayed buried. Not really. Over the years, that moment came back to me in flashes, when I drove by that road again. When I passed Green Hollow and saw the same brick walls, the same dying hedges. Sometimes I'd be standing in line at the store, and out of nowhere I'd think, what if he saw me too? What if whoever that was knew I saw him, knew I didn't act? And then, 22 years later, I got the letter. No return address. Just a plain envelope slipped into my mailbox like any other piece of junk mail. Inside, one piece of paper. Typed. Old printer ink. Probably from some library. It said, "You saw him too." That's it. No name. No explanation. No threat. Just those 4 words. I stared at it for a long time. Hands shaking. Heart pounding. It hit like a freight train. Not just because someone remembered, but because someone knew I didn't do a damn thing. I folded it back up. Put it in the drawer of my desk. Donna found me there, maybe an hour later. Asked what was wrong. I told her it was just old paperwork I was cleaning out. She nodded, walked away. That night I laid in bed, eyes wide open, listening to the house creak, wondering who else knew. Was it someone from the department? Someone from Green Hollow? Was it Wendell? I didn't even know if he was alive anymore. I called the old number I had in the file. Disconnected. I called the main line for Green Hollow. Got voicemail. I called the county clerk's office. Nothing. It was like he vanished. And suddenly, that shadow in the trees felt bigger than ever. Because what if it wasn't just one man abusing Wendell? What if it wasn't just staff being cruel? What if there was someone outside? Someone watching? Someone letting it happen? I don't know. I wish I did. But what I do know is this. I should have said something. I should have followed that figure. I should have knocked on every damn door until I found someone who would listen. But I didn't. And that silence? It's louder now than it ever was back then. That letter didn't just shake something loose in me. It cracked the whole damn foundation. For 22 years, I carried that silence like it was welded to my spine. I told myself it didn't matter. Told myself nobody else knew. That maybe I imagined it. That Wendell got the help he needed. That whatever I didn't do, someone else eventually did. But then that envelope showed up. 4 words. You saw him too. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling fan spinning slow, slow, slow. Donna reached over once, touched my arm, asked if I was too hot. I told her I was just restless. Restless. That's one word for it. Another would be terrified, because now I knew I wasn't the only one who remembered. And whoever wrote that letter knew enough to remind me that I wasn't just a witness. I was part of it, and that changes everything. The next morning, I made coffee, sat on the porch, same spot I've sat for years. Same cracked wood, same chipped mug, but everything felt different. The sky, the trees, the damn breeze on my neck, it all felt like it was watching me now. I opened a notebook. Not the old one. I couldn't bring myself to dig that deep yet. Just a fresh page. I wrote down everything I could remember. That day. That man. The nursing home. Wendell's face. His voice. The words, "Don't send me back." I wrote for hours. By the time Donna came out to check on me, I'd filled 6 pages. She asked what I was working on. I told her it was something from the old days. She gave me a look but didn't push. I thought about throwing it all away, burning the pages, pretending none of it came back. But I couldn't, because I started wondering, what if that letter was a cry for help? What if someone was still out there? What if Wendell never made it past that transfer? So I did what I hadn't done in 2 decades. I started digging. I called old contacts. A couple retired officers I still play cards with now and then. Asked if anyone remembered Green Hollow. Most had vague recollections. Wasn't that the one that closed down? Didn't they have some inspection issues? One guy, Mike Landers, worked in adult protective services back in the day. He remembered more. Said there were complaints. Nothing ever stuck. You know how it was, he said. They didn't want to stir up trouble unless there were bruises and witnesses. Places like that slipped through the cracks all the time. I asked him if he ever looked into Wendell Rayner. He went quiet. Rayner? Yeah. That name does ring a bell. I think I got a file on him somewhere in the garage. He called me back 2 days later. Said the file was thin. A report from 2003, flagged for follow-up. The note read, "Resident found wandering. Allegations of neglect. No further action. Transferred to facility in Owensboro. Case closed." Case closed. Like that's the end of it. I asked if he ever confirmed the transfer. He said no. Just assumed it went through. That's when it hit me. We all assumed someone else followed up. But nobody did. I called Owensboro Regional. Asked about Wendell. Got bounced around departments. Nobody found anything. No record of admission, no discharge, no death certificate. Like he vanished. That's when I called the county coroner. Asked if they had any John Does from 2003 fitting his description. The man paused. We did have one. Male, elderly, found near railroad tracks. Never identified. Date of death was August 29th, 2003. 16 days after I found him, I asked for a description. He read it off slowly. Thin build, white male. One shoe, wearing a flannel shirt. I didn't say anything. He asked if I wanted to come in and view the photo. I told him no, because I already knew. It was Wendell. He didn't make it. He got transferred, somewhere, and ended up dead by the tracks 2 counties over. And the last person who saw him alive, who really saw him, was me. I hung up the phone and just sat there. Felt like the walls were closing in. The man trusted me. He reached for me, asked me to help him, and I did the bare minimum. I didn't protect him. I didn't press charges. I didn't raise hell. I didn't chase the shadow in the trees. And because of that, he died alone. Maybe running again. Maybe chased again. Maybe watched. That's the part I can't shake. The idea that whoever I saw that night might have found him later, or worse, that they never stopped watching. After the letter came, I started checking the mailbox every day. Not just out of habit, out of fear and hope. Part of me wanted another one, something to tell me more, to guide me, to punish me. But it never came. Just that one envelope. Enough to bring it all back. And now I sit with this truth, this weight in my chest, knowing I can't go back. Can't fix it. All I can do is tell the story now, say the things I didn't say before. Because maybe there's someone out there like Wendell, someone in another home, another facility, being forgotten, being watched, being hurt. And maybe, just maybe, if I speak now, it'll matter. Because silence didn't save Wendell. It killed him. You don't move on from something like that. People say time heals, but that's not always true. Sometimes time just hardens things. It doesn't take the weight away. It just pushes it deeper into your bones. Until one day you realize you've been carrying it so long, you don't know how to set it down. That's what happened with Wendell. It wasn't just the guilt. It was the silence that followed. The space between what I knew and what I said. And I've lived in that space for over 2 decades. You try to convince yourself that life keeps going, that maybe you didn't have all the facts, that maybe someone else dropped the ball, not you. But when the lights go off and the house is quiet and the only sound is the old clock in the hallway ticking its steady rhythm, that's when the truth whispers. You saw him, and you walked away. I go back to that field sometimes, not physically, not anymore, but in my head. I see him standing there, skin like parchment, that empty, aching stare, the way he whispered, "No more." And I see the trees behind him, that shadow, that figure. I try to freeze it, to zoom in, to make it make sense, but I never can. I can't see his face. I can't read his intent. All I know is he was there, and I didn't follow. You live long enough, you learn to live with ghosts. Wendell's one of mine. He visits in quiet ways. Sometimes I hear his voice when I pass by a nursing home on my way to the grocery store. Sometimes I feel him when I walk into a room that smells like antiseptic and overcooked vegetables. Sometimes I wake up thinking I heard him whisper something. And then there are the moments when I catch myself wondering if that letter was just in my head. But I always go back to the paper. Still folded, still in my drawer. You saw him too. Those 4 words feel like a mirror. They show me who I was and who I wasn't when it mattered. I think what hurts most is that Wendell trusted me. In the end, he reached out. Not to a nurse, not to a social worker, to me. And I failed him. I gave him comfort in a field, and I walked away when I should have dug deeper. There's a difference between kindness and courage. I was kind, but I wasn't brave. That's a hard truth to live with when you wear a badge for 25 years. People think you're the strong one, that you're made of something more solid. But sometimes the strongest-looking men are the ones most afraid to ask the hard questions, because they already suspect the answers. I think about that a lot now. What if I had followed the shape? What if I had filed a full report? What if I had knocked on doors, rattled cages, made noise? Would Wendell have lived? Would I have saved a man? Not just rescued him, but truly saved him? I don't know. And I'll never know. That's the part that haunts me. I've tried to make peace with it. Tried therapy. Sat through a couple sessions with a counselor Donna recommended. Nice woman, kind eyes. She asked me what I was holding on to. I told her the truth. A man who whispered the truth to me, and I left it on the ground like an old can. She said that kind of guilt. It doesn't get solved. It just gets named. And I guess that's what I'm doing now. Naming it. Letting it exist out loud. Because for too long I kept it inside. Quiet. Hidden. But you keep something buried long enough, it starts to rot. And it rotted in me. Made me short with people. Made me pull away from friends. Made me stop showing up at retiree breakfasts. Because I didn't feel like I deserved to share stories with the others. They had shootouts, car chases, acts of bravery. And I had a man I watched fade into the dark because I chose not to look too hard. But I've also learned something else. There's power in finally speaking. Even if it's late. Even if the man is long gone. Even if no one ever writes me back. Because if this story reaches someone, some officer out there, or nurse, or son, or daughter who's been ignoring something they feel in their gut, then maybe it won't be for nothing. Maybe Wendell's voice will still echo through me. Because I hear him still. Not every day. But some nights, when the world is quiet and the clock's still ticking, I hear it. They don't hit hard, just enough. And that's enough to keep me awake. Enough to make me remember that this job, this life, this whole fragile world we move through, it's not about the big moments. It's about the ones no one sees, the ones you almost ignored, the ones that whisper when they should have screamed. And that whisper lives in me. It always will. I'm not proud of everything I did in my career, but I'm not ashamed to say that anymore, because sometimes the most honest thing a man can do is admit he got it wrong. I didn't come here to make excuses or to scrub my name clean. I came here to say something out loud, in case there's someone out there who needs to hear it. Pay attention. That's it. That's the message. Pay attention to what feels off, to what doesn't make sense, to the things that people say with their eyes when their mouths are too afraid, to the little signs we're trained to ignore, because sometimes those signs are the whole damn story. I spent too many years convincing myself that I didn't have enough to go on, that a shadow in the woods didn't mean anything, that an old man's bruises could be explained away, that someone else would ask the hard questions, that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't my job to push. But here's what I've learned the hard way. It's always your job to push. If something don't sit right, poke it. If you feel that tightness in your gut, follow it. And if someone like Wendell reaches for you, even with nothing but trembling hands and half a voice, listen. Really listen. Because those are the moments that make or break people. And they don't announce themselves. There's no soundtrack, no flashing light, just a choice and a few seconds of silence where your next move becomes who you are. I made the wrong move, and I've been living with it ever since. I used to think speaking up now wouldn't matter, that it was too late. But I don't think that way anymore, because the truth has a way of echoing, if you let it. So here's what I want to say to whoever's watching this. If you work in a nursing home or a hospital, or even behind a desk somewhere, look closer. If you're a cop or a medic or any kind of first responder, slow down just long enough to notice the small things. And if you're just someone who saw something and told yourself it wasn't your place, maybe it is. You don't have to be sure to care. You don't have to know the whole story to ask the first question. And if you're carrying something, like I carried this, some story you've never told, some moment you never reported, some shadow you never named, I hope you'll say it now, while there's still time, while your voice still has weight. Because stories like Wendell's only disappear if we let them. They only vanish if we turn our heads. And I've turned mine long enough. So this is for him. For every Wendell out there. For every person locked away, unheard, unseen, hurt in ways they can't even name. And for anyone watching this who feels like they've got their own silence clawing at the inside of their chest, you don't have to carry it alone. You can speak. You can tell it, right here, right now, even if it's in the comments under this video, even if it's a message to someone you haven't talked to in years. Tell it. Because maybe, just maybe, your story can be the one that finally gets heard, that finally breaks the pattern, that finally turns a whisper into a voice. And if nothing else, let this be proof that it's never too late to face what haunts you. Even if all you've got left is the telling,